Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot, 9-inch game. Inside that three-point line, it's all there. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Turn it into the 19.
Welcome to the 19-9 podcast. I'm here with Josh Barnett and Dave Wilkinson. We are traveling down memory lane for a 19-9 classic. This one's going to be IU Michigan State from 2001. Might not be a classic to everyone, but certainly to IU fans and to the guys on this podcast, it's a classic. So, Josh, how you doing down there in Florida?
What's up, sir? We're doing all right, man. A little beer, a little cigar, the dream podcast scenario.
I love it. Dave, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It's been a great day. Glad to be doing this. Appreciate the invite.
Okay, so what we've been doing with these classics is setting the scene. So now what we want to do is usually set the scene for the team, but this one's a little bit different. So we're going to set the scene kind of what preceded this the year before. So Coach Knight has gotten fired from the university. So I think that part of it, and you guys can jump in on this, part of what's so amazing about this win is that it feels like the first big win, the first monumental win after Coach Knight has left.
Yeah, so what year were you in school when Coach Knight got fired?
Yeah, this is my sophomore year. So I was walking back from classes and I'm walking up past Teeter and there is just a stream of people going the other way. And it's like the middle of the afternoon. So I'm like, where is everyone going? Like way too many people for it not to be something going on. So I'm like, I probably should turn around. And there's no cell phone. So you can't just like look at Twitter or figure out what's going on. You just literally turn around and start following people. And they go down to the president's house and start throwing rocks at it. So
I was probably in that group of people that walked past you on your way back from class that day.
Probably.
Dave, where were you at?
I don't remember where I was. The funny thing is I do remember when the Neil Reed and everything happened. I was on spring break of my senior year. So this all happened the following year after I was a year out of school. So I graduated in 99. And so I was at work, probably really hating what I was doing at the time. But I do remember all of this happening. So not a good day.
Not a good day. Definitely not as good a day as you guys are having right now with those cigars.
I've been dreaming about smoking a cigar while we do a podcast for
yes.
2 years.
I'm just mad. Mad I'm not getting able to join in on it yet.
I know. I just talked too much and wasn't paying attention, and mine went out. And I might have to relight it, and I hope the mic picks it up. It's pretentious as hell, but whatever. Fuck it. It's vacation.
All right, let's listen to Coach Knight.
There's really, I think over all the years that I've been here, one of the things that I've tried to keep uppermost in my mind with the basketball program is that the students are a very big part of it. And when I sometimes when maybe I slip a little bit or I don't.
You never slip, Bobby!
I'm here talking to you as students in the year 2000. But what I think I'm really doing is talking to all students who have attended this university since 1971. There's been a tremendous support from the student body for basketball. I mean, you had parents and brothers and sisters that rooted for May and Benson and Buckner and Cruz and Abernathy and Woodson and Tolbert and Turner and Kitchell and Whitman and Cheney and the Grahams and Steve Isle and everybody that we've had here. People change. People change over the years. That must be an administration helicopter up there. And as I leave here, I'd like each of you to just take a minute, a full minute, to bow your heads, and in whatever way you do, wish myself and my family the very best, as I wish you the very best.
So I'm going to come to Dave first. I think that it's hard sometimes for people outside of Indiana to capture like how much Bobby Knight meant to Indiana University and the state just in general. So I'm just curious what your background was with him, and by the time you'd graduated, what your feelings were about the general.
Well, I grew up, neither of my parents went to Indiana, but, we grew up in Northeast Indiana, and I was in Fort Wayne. My dad was a huge IU fan. I started going to games from the time I was a little kid, and, we would go to kind of like I think it was the Indiana Classic that was always in Indy because it was too expensive to get tickets in Bloomington, and nearly impossible in the 80s to scalp a ticket because you really didn't know how. But I grew up, as Bob Knight was like my second father. He never did anything wrong. He was the perfect guy, and my dad, when he coached, did a lot of the similar things to Knight. And so I had a long storied history with Indiana basketball, a huge fan, and, then, went to Indiana from 95 to 99. So, but it got difficult because in my time there, they didn't perform well in the tournament. They had a lot of good teams, a lot of good talented players, but I think they lost in the first round. I should have looked that up almost in every year I was there. So, but still, he was the general and recruited great players. He had some uncommon recruiting classes in those years that just didn't perform in the tournament.
Yeah, with some parallels to today's Hoosier team, maybe.
Right. Unfortunately,
Jesus Christ.
I won't bring that one up. Let's stay in the past. What about you, Barnett? What did the general mean to you? Especially, were you at this Dunn Meadow speech?
Yeah, so I was there. So when he got fired, I was in the student union with my parents. My parents were actually up there, and it came over the radio when I was in the union, like shopping with them. They were picking up hoodies or some shit, and because they were leaving, and then I was like, well, fuck, we're gonna riot. Like, people are gonna riot on this shit. And my dad went into full like Vietnam protest shit with me, and he was like, look, what you need to do is you need to get some bandanas. You need to wet those bandanas, drape them across your... I was like, where are we going? What are we like?
Oh my god!
I'm just gonna go and like, yell some shit at Miles Brand. Like, I don't anticipate tear gas and shit coming, but it got to that point though.
Yeah.
I know it got to that point that night at his house, and so I started getting nervous. Like, I saw cops in like their riot gear and shit start to kind of move up, and so I went over to a cop and I'm like, sir, what do you suggest I do? He's like, I suggest you get the fuck out of here. So I said, that's the deal. Like, I'm out. Like, this is too heavy for me. I'm not here to, get in any kind of scuffle or anything. So I left. That was the night they actually got fired. And then I went to the Dunn Meadow speech, and I thought it was cool. He has not in that 2-minute clip, but he had a great line about Karen, who we've come to know over the last couple of years, who's an absolute saint that I've said on this podcast before. She's an awesome woman, and she was really emotional during that entire speech, and he got emotional then at the end too. But when that whole shit with Neil Reed went down, they did the zero tolerance. She had some kind of quote that she put on their refrigerator about the high horse being dead or something, so get off of it, or something that reminded him every day, like, you got to be a little bit more humble, or whatever the message may be. And I thought that was really cool. She kind of lost it during that.
Well, she slips in the like most cutting line too. Like, he comes over and touches her shoulder, and she goes, I hope that's not inappropriate contact.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, Karen.
So when we visited Coach Knight and Karen a few summers back, it was just a really cool dynamic between the two of them. But there was no mistaking in that house, like, who was the greatest college basketball coach of all time. You know what I mean? When you walked in there, you knew it. Like, she knew it. She talked the talk with him. You know what I mean? It was really cool to see. So that's what I remember. What about you?
Oh, I was there too, and I think that I had such a different upbringing from you guys, but Indiana had started to become my home, and it meant a lot to me, and I was so excited to like get to see Coach Knight coach in person. I had never been to a game that he coached, so I'm ready for like season tickets, go to every game. Obviously love basketball even then.
And a good recruiting class coming in to join that team too.
I mean, and just, you had Jared Jeffries in Bloomington too, so it seemed like things were going to keep going in the right direction, and probably would have had he been able to stay.
And you had Sean May on that Bloomington North team that was coming to IU.
Exactly.
If Coach Knight was still there too. Did you ever go to any of the Bloomington North games? Those two dudes
for
played?
sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Dope.
I mean, I played against both of them pickup ball too. They would come down to the rec center and play.
That's what we. Yeah, so we were at a Bloomington North game, and Coach Knight walked into the game, the Bloomington North game, just into this packed gym. He was a little bit late arriving, and that place was electric when he walked in.
I bet.
Cool, man. It was cooler than seeing him walk into Assembly Hall, because you expected it at Assembly Hall, but then when the general walks into a crowded high school gym and everything just stops and everybody turns and just looks at him and just follows him walking and sitting down and erupting and cheers and shit. It's just like those dudes back in those days. Dave and I were talking about this last night. Those guys were just larger than life back then. We don't have those personalities as much, but that's a tangent that I'll go off on another time.
That's an hour last night. The funny thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Jump in, Dave.
No, the funny thing that was so striking to me about that whole clip, but watching the clip on TV is, and I know this may be a little silly, but seeing Coach Knight standing there, and I think he was wearing a blue polo. I think it was a Cardinals polo.
It was.
And to see, that's the first time in my life, I was probably 23 years old. That's the first time in my life I ever saw him wearing something that wasn't IU or Trump red. So to see him standing there in that polo, I'm like, dude, it's over. What's going on? This is terrible, Yeah. The gravity of that moment just struck in when I saw him wearing that. And I'm like, man, this is not good.
Yeah, it's an interesting way. Well, let's listen to Hastings. We're going to get into the game here a little bit, but let's listen to how Hastings reacted, because I think it's worth thinking about what it was like to be the players at this time too, because they had to feel it in an even much more personal way than we did, because we feel like we knew this guy, but they actually knew him.
Coach Knight just hardly. I had never really seen him show any kind of emotion. Seeing like getting even where close to welling up or anything like that. Just wasn't his style. Nothing bad or good about that. Just didn't ever see that from him or see that side of him. And it was just It was a very bizarre feeling in the locker room, just knowing, this is, and this kind of stuff maybe didn't hit us in the moment as much as it did in the coming weeks. It's like, you're sitting there and like, this is the last time that this legend is going to be in his locker room.
I think Dave hit on that pretty perfectly right there with the Cardinals polo. It's just weird to think like that. This is it. No matter what we want to think, this is the end for him.
That's the first time I've ever heard Kurt Hastings speak.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never heard that clip.
Nice.
I've never heard that dude talk in my entire life, and I'm like, as he's talking, I'm like, damn, this guy is from Tennessee, 100%.
For sure, he's a politician down there now. He just won re-election.
Senator, yeah.
That's what Dave was telling.
All right, so here's the whole scene then. So the Spartans coming in, they've reeled off 23 consecutive victories. This is coming off their national championship. They're 12-1 at the time. IU's 10-6. They're number one in the country, and just comes in. Were you guys both at this game, or where were you watching it at?
Yeah, I was there. It was I was in row 42, and anybody that's been in Assembly Hall knows that is one of the worst seats in the house. So
fucking awful.
Barnett, what about you? Where were you at?
I was in the balcony, man.
Oh.
So, yeah, I was in the balcony. It was just part of our season ticket package, and so it was just one of those games. Now, I think the next year for Michigan State, we were on the floor, but it wasn't nearly the game that this one was.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were up in like the corner, like I could lean my shoulder up against the concrete wall. We were all the way pushed to the side. But you had good seats.
I did, yeah. I wanted you to ask me about that. I even, if you guys scroll down to the document, you can see where we are on the main floor there, and then made it down onto the court after the game. I've got a photo from the court, looking up at Jared Jeffries. I think he was standing on the scoreboard or on the scorer's table there, and a picture of all the banners with the score too. So pretty cool.
Where did you find those pictures of you at this game?
I know. So when I don't remember when it was probably later, but I had on, no digital photos there, so I had one of those disposable cameras, and then they put it on a CD. Yeah, and then in grad school I put everything on Facebook at some point. So
I got you.
They ended up on Facebook.
That's sweet. I honestly, looking at that picture, I didn't even know which one of them was you.
No, I'm not even in any of them. Those are just my buddies that were at the game with me.
I was gonna tell, I'm like, neither one of them dudes look like Meyer. I'm like, which one is he?
Nah, I'm not. I'm just a photographer, not in any of them. Just it was me.
That was before selfies existed.
Exactly. Yeah, that was not a concept. I could have invented it at that game.
Yeah, so the funny part about that game is I don't remember shit but the Hastings shot. And I remember the balcony, shaking, literally, moving. And I'm terrified of heights, so I was like, oh, shit. But, super excited. And then everybody's like, should we try to get to the floor? Can we get down there? And I'm like, way too much energy, way too much effort. I'm just going to sit up here and watch this shit happen from here. Because our seats were so bad and shit. The balcony sucks. Assembly Hall kind of sucks in general. Viewing-wise, like Dave said, he was stuck under the overhang. At that point, you couldn't even see the scoreboards.
You can see the scoreboard, and if you're claustrophobic, it's terrible to sit in row 42. But you said the balcony was shaking. I was looking up and seeing the balcony shake above me. And it's a funny thing, I was with my dad, and it was the last game that we saw in person together. And we almost both died from falling out because how steep it is up there. And we're jumping up and down crazy. We all literally almost fell down the rows in front of us because the place was just nuts. And everybody was just one of those, you're hugging your neighbor and reaching down and hugging the guy in front of you. The noise level was insane. It was probably my favorite game I ever went to there. It was as loud as you can imagine.
Did you hug the guy that you had to yell 6 rows down to, hey, what's the score? How much time's left?
Well, let's talk about that buzzer beater, because I love Haston's quotes too. We'll hear some more audio from him, but he goes, "It's a big win for us. That goes without saying." I found that from one of the newspapers.
What did you tell me, Meyer, when we were talking about doing this game? You called it the time that, I don't know, what'd you say? You said it about Mike Davis, it kind of cemented Mike Davis as the next coach.
Well, he's the interim coach at this point, and so
right.
I think that this locks him in as the coach. I've heard alternate timelines, what if they don't win this game, he ends up getting fired at the end of the season, and we end up with Bill Self as the coach of IU after this season.
Don't do that to us, Meyer. Do not do that to us.
I heard that.
Do not do that.
I know. I heard that. It was devastating. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was that's an alternate reality.
The crazy thing is that there's, in some of his post-game interviews from games previous to that, he's like, I just can't get these kids to play together. Whoever gets this job, whoever the next guy is going to have to get these kids to work together. He's conceding the job 2 weeks before. He really is.
When you get the label of interim,
he did that a lot.
If you get interim coach at Indiana, that's not a great label to get.
Yeah.
All right,
it's better than not being anything.
That's fair. All right, let's
go ahead and slap an interim coach label on my ass right now and see if I don't go up there and coach the shit out of the kids.
I believe you could at least coach them into shooting. Cold threes to start every game till we start hitting them. We're gonna run every time you guys lose to me at cold threes until you guys are better shooters.
So I literally brag about Indiana being shooters, the home of shooters, on all Cold 3 episodes and anytime we talk in this podcast, and then our college team goes out there and can't shoot a lick. It just doesn't it just doesn't jive together, man. It sucks.
Yeah. All right, let's hear the call of the game here.
Be a little more difficult, so setting of screens and movement off those screens is going to be critical here.
A winning streak dating back to last season for Michigan State, and here we go. For the game.
Folks, I didn't expect that, but Mike Davis rolled the dice. It was a called play from the start. That was a design play, folks, with exactly the result that Mike Davis and his staff and team hoped for. There was no hesitation, no doubt. And Kirk Haston, what a wonderful feeling it is to knock down a game winner at the horn. I've done it once or twice in my career. There's no better feeling.
The longest winning streak in college basketball has ended at 23 games. And the defending national champion Michigan State Spartans have lost for the first time this season. Kirk Haston with the game-winning three-point shot for Indiana.
I like Clark Kellogg slipping in there that he's hit a couple of game winners.
What if he would have went back and be like, I hit one against Minnesota in 73.
Yeah, he was about
hit
to.
Another one.
He was about to have a Bill Walton. He was about to have a Bill Walton moment there.
How about Kevin Harlan on the call, though?
Yeah, I know. That was good. That was good. I thought he was
good.
pumped there. They got pretty into it.
Now, who do you think the play was for? Do you think it was a design play for Haston? Because to me, it looked like it was for Hornsby, who had 2 points in the game up to that point. And to me, it looked like Hornsby had one or two screens coming off that. Looked like he was supposed to get the shot.
And Haston is like a 6'10" center, essentially, who before the game revolutionized where everybody shot the ball, even though Haston could shoot it, but he wasn't necessarily known as a 3-point shooter or
I think
anything.
that was the second three he had made that year. So it was not
exactly.
not something.
So to answer your question, I guarantee we ran that play for somebody else, and it just
They ran it for Hornsby, and he had 2 points. I mean, he was cold as hell, and they brought him in to hit that shot, and he wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Hornsby traveled on every made basket that he ever had at IU too. Like he was a big feet shuffler on his shot. It never got called though. He could shoot it.
He could shoot. We could use him right now. I'll tell you what. Bring him back.
Yes, we could.
Bring him out of his doctor's office right now. All right, let's hear Kurt Haston after the game.
The Michigan State deal is kind of a strange deal too, because that was only the second time I'd ever taken a game-winning shot, and it was almost 2 years to the date that I think that Michigan State game was in February. And of course, in March, in my junior year in high school, I missed about a 6-foot jump shot that hit both sides of the rim and went out to lose the state title game. We lost by 1 point my junior year, and that was the first time I'd ever taken a game-winning shot in any game. And so, fast forward 2 years later, and that's the second shot I ever took to win a game was against Michigan State. And thankfully, I was in pretty big trouble underneath the dog pile until Coverdale started throwing people out of there and helped me up. I still owe Coverdale dinner for that.
I like that little nugget. Still a Coverdale dinner for that one.
Those dog piles make me so nervous.
Oh, I know. When everybody runs in there, just so intense. I tried to find the audio of Izzo after the game. He was pretty funny talking about it. He said, "I'm happy we lost. You get what you deserve, and we got what we deserved. We didn't play Spartan basketball today." And I was like, "What is Spartan basketball, anyways?" I couldn't really.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell. What it is. He's a great coach, but I don't think he's ever. That might go back to your point, Josh. That I don't think he's ever had that kind of defining style the way Knight does, or just maybe not to me, anyways.
I don't know, man. They're like, I don't know. He has that moniker of football coach, kind of like a Katie-esque, where they're just supposed to play like hard nose and beat you on the boards and stuff. That's what he ran on all those Final Four teams. But I mean, he also had like a lot of 5-star guys running to the boards and crashing the boards.
Yeah, exactly.
Always helps. But it's always like his whole thing is built on toughness and that type of stuff. So I think I don't know. I disagree with you a little bit. I think he has his own niche, his own style, his own selling points.
Yeah, he builds a team. He builds a real team. Like he gets the guys to play their roles, and then he always, he's got the big, strong guys, the punishers, the guys that can finish, the big guys. And then he does, to your point, always has a 5-star, always has 1 or 2 McDonald's All-Americans that just go in and can take it to you. And he's always got somebody that can get the bucket when they need it. And there's a lot of teams, Indiana, for instance, that don't have that guy. And they always have that guy that can get the bucket when you need it.
And that's so crucial in college basketball, like, or any level of basketball. Like, you need shit, even on like my son's team, 7-year-old team. Every now and again, I'm just like, I look at the head coach and I'm like, we just don't have anybody we can give the ball to and say, go get 20 points. I need somebody to get us 20 points. You know why? Because 20 points will win this whole game. It'll win the whole league. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to have that one dude that you know where it's going to in crunch time, and you know that they can go and get it.
Right.
And sometimes, like in 88 with Danny Manning, that is enough. 03 with Melo, like, to win you a national championship. Like, if you had, you have to have other pieces, obviously, but you get the right guy, Kemba Walker for UConn, that you just know that those guys can get you a bucket when it's needed. And man, I feel like IU hasn't had that guy in a while.
Well, interesting you say that, because the next category, I'll bring it to Dave first on this one. This was my can't let it go moment. Does IU win the national championship the next year? We're in the national championship game without Kurt Haston. Is he enough? He's in someone's house watching the game the next year. He's on the Charlotte Hornets. Would he have been enough to put us over the top to win that game?
That team is so interesting to think that with that talent, and so many guys stepped up in so many ways. That's just a once in a lifetime lightning in a bottle team, I think. Jared Jeffries played out of his mind. You got a guy like Jeff Newton coming in, playing really good minutes. AJ Moye, the heart of the team. George Lynch, right? Leach.
Mm-hmm.
You just got all these guys coming together, and then Coverdale with the bloody sock. And it's just one of those storybook teams. And he I don't even know if that happens if they're more established with a guy like Haston on it. I don't know if that lightning in a bottle happens with a guy like that, but
it's so hard to play that game. Like, it's so hard to play that game because you just don't know the effect, like Dave was saying. But the thing about that 0-2 run for IU was we shot the shit out of the ball in the NCAA tournament. We lit Kent State up. It was just stupid.
Yeah.
But Jeffries was like this Swiss Army knife of just a great fundamental basketball player with a lot of skill too in an NBA body, and he really understood how to play the game. And like, take him out of that equation, and how many games does that team win?
Not very many.
And it's not that he went out and got like 32 a game or something either. He wasn't that type of dude. He could get you that 26, 28 something from time to time, but it's like you would look up and all these dudes are getting open shots because of Jeffries, because he's finding them. You look up and he's got, at halftime, you're like, man, we got to get Jeffries more established. He has 12 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists, at a half. And you're just like, okay, he's fucking dominating this game. And I'm not seeing it, like, as I'm watching this game. Like, the stats, he is underappreciated. He was just a damn good basketball player.
Yeah, I think
he
so
made
too.
that whole team go.
I'll tell you what, though, it was interesting to hear Haston talk about it, though, later in that interview. He says that it's still, the interview was from 16 or something like that, but he said he still, like, wakes up in the middle of the night and thinks about, like, if he would have stayed, maybe they would have won that championship. And it has to, like, because he had such his pro career was so forgettable, to think that he could have, become an all-time IU guy. He already is in some ways.
Yeah, but I was going to say, then he checks his bank account and he goes back to sleep.
That's true, yeah.
A lottery pick. He was a lottery pick. A guy like that who was really good, but you have to cash in and strike while the iron's hot.
He said that too, and I think
nobody in the world would have gave him the advice to go back to IU. Like,
no,
go get your money first. nobody could foresee what was that run that was going to happen. Maybe it doesn't even happen if he's there. Like, just get that lottery money and be happy with it. Like,
but wasn't Wrecker should have been on that team, right?
I don't know. Did you hear that, Mark?
Well, Wrecker should have been on that team too, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Wrecker. Yeah,
he was, because he beat us at Iowa in the Big Ten championship
in the
game.
championship game, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
so he should have been on that team too.
Collier then too, right? He's at Georgia Tech.
Oh God, yeah.
I don't know if the years line
Maybe
up.
not.
But
Maybe not.
What if Steve Alford was on that team? That's my quota. That's my Steve Alford quota for the podcast.
All right,
we got to figure out how to work Ray Allen into it now.
Well, I'll figure it out here in a second. Let's listen to.
I just did
to Bill. Here we go.
Bill, we're at Stanford today, and we have got the game of the millennium tonight.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Learn to love your job, love pressure. Let's go.
Think can succeed here.
Barack Obama.
I don't think he's going to coach. So
Well, you keep saying that, but why? Why are you so negative? Why do you just turn down? Party on. It's a wonderful day. It's Oregon. The sun was out. Come on.
Would the question is, would this game have been better with Bill Walton on the call? I'll send it to Dave first on this one. Dave, would you like to?
Even really a question? Is that really a question?
That's always
game.
It's
always our question. That's always our question on a classic game that we rewatch.
Dave's
He would have it would have been phenomenal if Bill Walton was on the call. I mean, the guy just is so irreverent. I mean, he would have been bringing up. He would have been talking about a Grateful Dead concert in 1972 while Haston shooting that basketball. I mean, it would have been fantastic.
If you were listening to Bill Walton on the radio, you would have never known that Haston hit that shot to win it. He would have been talking about a hiking trail in Arizona or some shit. And I always answer no in this, because usually the games we watch are NCAA tourney games.
Yeah.
In full disclosure, we couldn't find this game, so like our details are fuzzy. So
Someone
if anybody
send us a copy
actually
of this game.
No doubt, because we could not find it anywhere, and so we're just going purely based on memory and some articles that Meyer sent, some stats that Dave's got a whole goddamn stat sheet over here printed out, and I'm going to answer yes on Bill Walton for this one. It would have been incredible to have Bill Walton in Assembly Hall, period. But in 2000, was Bill Walton like Bill Walton, though?
I think so.
Because he was still made it to an NBA game.
He might have been.
So many NBA games.
Yeah.
Yep.
He might have been on the NBA, but I think he would have been awesome. He would have been in the melee, maybe. He might have been in the middle of the dog pile. Might have been him instead of Tom Coverdale.
So you know that, like, the Bill Walton clip is perfect because Dave loves Bill Walton. He's one of the only guys with me that loves Bill Walton. Like, we will text each other at 11:30 at night one time, like, "Hey, are you watching this dog shit Pac-12 game?" And it's like, "Well, yeah, Walton's on the call." Like, did you hear what he just said? I'm like, "Yeah, the guy is fruit." So when Walton did the Maui Invitational this year, when IU was in it, my phone would not stop going off by just like my friends that love IU basketball. Like, God damn, Bill Walton's terrible. This guy, I mean, they hated him. And every time I would answer, like, that dude's the GOAT, man. Like, he's the greatest thing that's happened to this game.
Seriously,
and they were like,
what are they upset about?
How do you like Walton? Oh, my God. They couldn't handle it. I'm like, so I always hit him with, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you needed an announcer to explain the game of basketball to you. Like, I can watch the game of basketball and understand it. I'm sorry you can't do that. I'd just like to be entertained by what Bill Walton's talking about." I was like, I'm learning all kinds of shit about biking trails and hiking and all kinds of stuff. Like, it's great.
Oh, my gosh.
The best part of Maui this year was Walton calling, like, how many games they play? 3? Or they play 2 or 3 games? 3 games. And he was so excited because of Race Thompson. And he gets in as many Grateful Dead quotes as he can during a broadcast. But he said, "The race is on." Obviously, a great Grateful Dead song. He said the race is on no less than 5 times a game, all for that week. I mean, it was great. I lost count how many times he said it. It was so much fun.
Did he interview Bruce Hornsby or something? Who did
they brought the dude on.
Right.
They were just talking about like a concert, at one point. Just doing an interview with Bruce Hornsby in the middle of the game. I was like, all right. His son apparently went to one of those schools. Maybe, I don't know.
I did not catch what the tie-in was, but I loved the interview all the same.
Yeah.
And I think if ESPN paired me with Bill Walton, I literally wouldn't say one word, and I would just let Bill Walton talk and see how long he would. Because I think he, honestly, God, would talk from tip to buzzer without like taking a breath, without me interjecting it.
100%.
Reason set him up. Just let him go.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's hit the design corner. Barnett, why don't you start us off on this one? Was there any design elements, shoes that you saw? This is a little bit of a plain thing. I think the Michigan State unis are pretty sweet. You guys have those, but that's the IU Nike uniforms, I think, still maybe, or maybe not. Maybe they were the Rip-On Athletics. Weren't they with Rip-On or something like that?
Well, they switched halfway through the year, right? I think.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
They did that big, like that whole red to crimson thing.
Yeah,
like, and the timing of it was atrocious.
Yep.
And they tried to like change. They tried to change the uniforms and like all the sideline stuff, but it didn't match with the banners or the seats in Assembly Hall. Like everything was like.
They still had the Shadow logo all over Assembly Hall, and that's when they went to the more streamlined, whatever I don't know what you call that, the pitchfork or whatever that logo is. But they went to that longer logo, but they still had the Shadow logo all over Assembly Hall. And then the length of the shorts went like down, like to the knee, past the knee on those new mesh.
For the first time in high history, where everybody's like, "Oh shit, it's a new era around here." Like I remember that's a big deal.
I've got those shorts too. I've got those Nike shorts. As soon as they came out in Authentics, I bought those things because I love them. Because I've got all of them.
Still have them. I love them. Oh my god, we're right in that Fab Five era. Like we're like, what? Indiana finally getting with the times. Like it just felt right.
Yeah, you just said we're right in the Fab Five era, 8 years after the Fab Five. Like that's how long it took to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
It still hasn't hit Evansville.
Any shoes that you saw? I was pretty astounded how boring the shoes were in this game.
Meyer, where did you see this shit? I said we didn't have a copy of the game.
Look, there's some photos out there. I actually went like to find the articles. I was like in the IDS, combing the IDS archives, like trying to find it. It's hard to find this stuff. Like back from 2000, you'd be surprised. I was like, even newspaper artists. I was on like microfiche. All right, let's go on to what aged the best. That Michigan State team, I was kind of curious. They got blown out in the tournament, but man, that's a really good team. I was like, how good is college basketball when they're like that? I was impressed by that team. I'm kind of surprised they didn't do better in the tournament or weren't able to even repeat because they had a really talented team that year.
Yeah, I mean they had Randolph and Richardson. I mean those two guys. I think Randolph again. I'm the stats geek. Randolph only played like 21 minutes in that game, but those two guys right there, I mean, that is two great players. But, again, you don't see an Izzo team underachieve very often, but they really did. I mean, it was really surprising they lost that early.
Let's get back to design corner. So I was saying that, you were saying there wasn't a lot of video that you could see, but were there any photos or anything that you picked up on for the shoes?
The Michigan State 2000 team that won the national championship wore those Iverson questions with the green toe and the icy soles, and that's one of the best uniform combinations in the history of college basketball.
Agreed.
But I don't know what they were wearing.
I think it looks like they're Nike.
I think they were.
Yeah.
In all those grainy ass pictures that I tried to look at,
they look like Shocks or something.
They wore Reebok.
Yeah, they were Reebok.
They were Reebok when they won.
Is that why they lost this year? They switched from Reebok to Nike. As a person who has some superstitions, I don't think I would have been able to do that.
I don't think I agree with you guys that they were Nike during this game. I'd have to go back and try to find some pictures. I think they were Reebok still. And then they switched to Nike pretty soon after because they were a big Nike school, for most of Izzo's run after that. So maybe that was the year they switched, but I thought because they still have Team Cleves, right, during that game?
Yeah, they did.
Or did he graduate? He was gone.
Oh yeah, he had graduated. You're right.
So I might be thinking of the Lynn Washington game, and they might have switched to Nike this year. So you guys might be right. Yeah, the year before was the Lynn Washington game. Yeah.
All right,
it would be very nice to have a fucking video of this game.
Someone send us the video. We got to figure out. That is a goal of mine. So if anybody knows how to get just videos of old games, because it's hard to find. They're just not a lot. Like if it's not on YouTube, it's just not out there. So people need to like digitize their old VHSs. Josh, you probably got a whole stack of them somewhere.
I do. I don't have a VHS player anymore though. But if I did, I'd fire them up.
Dave, you got any stats? And Josh was saying you had some stats. You got any stats as we're wrapping up here?
I don't know. I think I spit out everything I had. The interesting thing was the stat I couldn't get over is that the production of the scoring in this game, Haston and Jeffrey scored 73% of the points. I think Haston had close to 30.
Yeah, 26.
Jeffrey's had in the mid to high teens.
Yeah.
And then everybody else had 2 to 4, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting. And then, going back to the team that ran to the championship game, I mean, AJ Moyer played 2 minutes in this game. All these guys that kind of led that next team, a lot of them didn't really produce much in this game. Besides Jeffries.
They rode. The one thing of that team, though, too, they rode the starters. Coverdale plays 37 minutes in this.
Right.
And Jeffries is at 39. So that's definitely something they continue to do is ride the starters, maybe to the end of the ground.
To me, that also is a sign of a young coach. An inexperienced coach.
Not trusting his guys.
Subbing is the hardest thing to do in basketball, and try to find like the right mix and the right group. And then when you find a group that's hanging with the number 1 team in the nation or whatever Michigan State was, it's very hard to like pull people from that rotation because you're afraid that you're going to go down 8 as soon as you put 2 dudes in. You know what I mean? Like that's just a really hard thing to do. And that's, Mike Davis being inexperienced. Like he was handed that job with literally no experience at that level. So what he did with that, and we always talk about it. Dave loved Mike Davis, but we both appreciated what Mike Davis was able to do under the circumstances.
Sure.
Like he was set up. I mean, that was just a hard thing to do. Like I would not wish that upon anybody.
Completely set up for failure. I mean, that guy had no experience, nothing. Handed a really good team in one of the top, 5 or 10 whatever programs in the country, and he was like, they called him an assistant coach, but he was a recruiting guy, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I was using him to recruit. I mean, he's not a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it in the way he did it. I mean, he's just not. But man, what he did with those kids was great, and the kids came together and did it, and they made it look easy. But it was a fun ride for that next team.
No doubt. He took a shot and he got rewarded for it. He's still, coaching Division I college basketball. So sometimes you take a chance.
Mercy, baby.
Yeah, you take a chance
sometimes. The funny thing is his kid now, the kid that he was toting around was 4 years old, and that Final Four run is now one of the leading scorers in the country.
I know. Crazy, right?
Incredible. Incredible. He's got he's the highest volume 3-point shooter in the country right now. Or
wow.
Something like that. Yeah. Oh,
is he looking to transfer to IU?
It's fun to watch. I wish. With me, I wish.
All right, Josh, you guys got anything else?
I got nothing, man. Our cigars are almost out. Our drinks are gone.